Right, so it's the 23rd of March 2025, and I've been in bed with a hangover all day because I drank a lot last night on the spirits, and I also had some beers as well, so I was a bit naughty because I went to the 94 club for a good time basically. So tonight's the starting stages of cutting down on the drink. It's got to be done now. So the burning problem's been very, very bad, extremely bad, and also there's banging to say you molested Sadie, Justin, or having a break and stuff like that. When I go out, they time a load of black and blue cars, white, grey, sick and whatever, and they're controlling the traffic on the road to stop me crossing. And then obviously there's a whole load of other built up traffic, and then the time that I cross over, they cause those traffic lights to go green on the other side to try and stop me crossing there, while they step up all this action in this stupid fucking way of black and blue or whatever. There's a couple of vehicle names, I can't remember what they were because I couldn't write it down in time. And then there's an 8 times loud bike times with my penis shooting up. That then aligns me into a threat, and someone says that I'm going to be fucking smashed up and I'm a sick fucker, with a photo taken of me. Another rough person comes my way, no threats but a photo taken of me. After that there's 2 rough people in my direction who mistake me as Savannah, who I've never seen before, saying that he's getting fucking smashed out, he's getting beat up. There's nothing you can do about it though, because that's how the creator god wants to fucking buckle my movement. Black and fucking blue, our van, walking to another 2 rough people, getting very edgy as we pass, saying stuff I couldn't make out what was being said. And then there's a few thugs that are in my direction that get a bit nasty, but they're mostly shouting between themselves. After that, they time another rough person in my direction, no threats. You're well fucking dangerous, aren't you, said by someone, a woman from a house or flat window. Bonus, a motorbike, another photo taken of me, tied to an itchy bumhole, 8 times loud bike in my direction, and they made the road very busy down there apart from the last couple of minutes, so I've had to take the awkward route. However, it's not too awkward, even though the path's falling away, and obviously there's a couple of rough people I had to let go past first. Sorry. So I ended up smoking a fag. Yesterday I smoked a hell of a load of fags. I was naughty, but I'm going to have to stop all this. Right, so I've got a red car and a yellow car that's just occurred on the road below. Right, so there's been 6 more loud bikes tied to erections in itchy bumhole, and some black and blue cars, and red, white or whatever. The flu's taking time to go because obviously I can't smell anything yet. I still got that stupid smell that you get with the flu or chest infection, and also I can't taste my food still properly. Obviously I've been in bed with a hangover all day. I did drink a lot of mine last night. It was one of the worstest spirit drinking nights I've done in a long time, and obviously the last time I had this amount was probably when I was on holiday with my brother, or just under that amount, but not by much, which will be replaced with some beers instead. Yeah, the burning problem's very, very bad. It's excessive. At this minute in time, I should be going to A&E or calling 111 because of the situation, but obviously I'm just going to have to do what I'm doing now, and that's to do that walk that I usually do, and come back later on. Obviously it's still early-ish in the day, but it's not that early, so it's roughly about, let me just have a look on the phone, just coming up 5 PM, so, but there's nothing I can do about it. Luckily tomorrow I got the support worker and I could be able to mention the problem with them. I was too ill to have a bath, and obviously the gas is off, so You have to book it in at the staff office to use the shower in another room, which is an electric hookup. I'm going to do that tomorrow or the next day. I don't shower every day, you see, because there's something in the water, or it's hard water, and it causes sores to occur, like a rubbing sore, itchy bumhole or whatever, persistently. And also you get a sweaty sore gooch, private area, and it can get sore there as well. So I have to eliminate the baths to twice a week. It's the same when I was living up Burnham-on-Sea as well, because of the issue with the hard water. So the last time I was able to take baths on a regular basis, where I was bathing every day, was when I was living at Bridgewater at West Street. And obviously the water was different back then. You could drink the water without feeling crap, and the water wasn't hard. However, even up Bridgewater at West Street, going back to the last 2 to 3 years, the baths became slightly less frequent, to like 3 times a week, because there was a slight change in the water, but it wasn't dramatic. And then obviously when I went to Burnham twice a week, and at this place, anything from once or twice a week, or I might just take my clothes off and splash a load of water on me with some soap on days where I don't have a bath, basically, or a shower. Right, so on that farm track path, they've just timed a catalytic converter, and they were doing that very frequent last year, and take into account there's only one house that goes down there, and they managed to time it in both directions, especially last year. Right, so I've got a sore bumhole, so I don't know how that's occurred, because I haven't had a bath for a couple of days. But when you go to a toilet, you get that sort of problem. There's the water, you can't use the water because the water's hard, and it causes all these sores, and it increases the issue. I mean, when I went on holiday, or when I stayed at my mum's or whatever, I didn't have this problem at all. Right, so there's a loud bike continuum, persistently. At the catalytic converter hot point, there were 6 cars initially, and then another car when I actually got to the actual catalytic converter hot point, and a couple of unusual bird sounds, but it hasn't gone into voice sounds properly just yet. After I went to the 94 Club last night, which is like a bar karaoke type thing, and there was no problems there actually, and I was getting on alright. I went with one of the neighbours, the new neighbour Dom, and then obviously after he went back I stayed. But then I decided to go to Chicago Rock. I thought I'll give it one more try, I thought, I've been told off before, I've been searched, but if I remember, they said it was for a short period of time, but I cannot remember properly because I was absolutely pissed on that night. In actual fact, I drank more on that night than I did last night, so it was shot after shot, so whiskey shots, whatever, vodka, and I'm not sure how many I had, but I had a hell of a load. The only thing I wasn't doing was smoking as much as what I have been smoking at the moment. Well, I lit my fag a few seconds before you get to the open door to go outside in the smoking area, and security passed me, and he said, come with me. He says, no, come on. So I followed him. He says, you can't come back, we don't allow smoking inside the building, and said, you're banned forever, you can't come back. And I didn't say nothing to him, I just walked off and went back to the 94 Club, where the atmosphere was a little bit better, and obviously couldn't serve drink when I went back there, so but there was no problems, and obviously I would go back there again at the 94 Club, obviously, but it's not going to be a thing that I do on a regular basis. Firstly, I need to cut down the smoking, and I need to cut down the drink, because I'm being very, very naughty with the drink and smoking at the moment. Right, so you've had a sexy looking lady down the path. She's wearing like a black leather top, leather clothes, and obviously she's got like, you know, smooth skin. I'd say she's about my age roughly, but very smooth appearance for her age, and she's styled her hair so it's like long black hair. Well, not long, but you know, in a way where it looks sexual, like the you know, the sort of really sexy smiley type. And obviously she was wearing sunglasses, but there was no problems. She just gave a look like she doesn't like you sort of look. And the other thing that's occurred is the sexy purple car. That's what it says on the side of the car. There's like a purple car that's sexual with dark windows. I saw that the other day when we had the sexual suggested setups on that specific day. Nothing came through on all that, you know. It's sort of like it's mentioned on yesterday's or a day before the video on where I said that they've made a mistake with the setups because what they suggested hasn't come true basically. And obviously I was saying that they got me in a trap of maybe what they rigged up for someone else, and they got confused when mapping it out or pre-organising it or whatever. But obviously after that day, all the booby traps went back to the malicious setups as it's supposed to be. That's rigged up around me. Right, so Crow and Bird have been saying you molested Sadie repeatedly. Bird says you raped Sadie, being murdered next week. It says something else, and I couldn't make out what it says, and made the name Jesus, and then basically said that you're being ripped to fucking pieces in your next life and molested again in your next life. So obviously there's been another car, and it's the car where it says sexual intercourse on a sticker in the back of the car window. Right, so the road's busier than usual, and there's a lot of people, including the graveyard, but at the bottom part, initially that is. A Crow says shot down just, but obviously, you know, God's fallen, so you're going to have to put up with it. There is one thing I will mention. This is possibly due to smoking a lot and drinking a lot last night, but if it's not, then obviously there's some retraction on the flu, or the chest infection or whatever I got. I think it's a flu. So you start to feel the effects of the flu kicking in just a little bit worse than what it was yesterday, and a tiny bit worse than what it was the day before, but not worse than the day before that or days before that. So it seems to be acting like a very unusual type of flu, and it's very annoying obviously. Right, so I've been out 1 hour since I left my place, so I'm going to update you on the burning problem. Right, so the burning problem is, well, let's put it this way. Apart from February to April, in the time period I stayed at my dad's because the burning problem was really bad, and sections of November and December of last year, then the burning problem, or how I'm feeling at this minute in time, is worse than any day I felt between May 2024 and October 2024 at my place when the burning's been bad. So obviously, yes, it's not very good, is it? And obviously, you know, this is 1 hour later, not from when the issue was occurring, you know, when I go out. So yes, it's been very bad today. For the last 3, possibly 4, I'm not sure, I think it's 3. So the last 3 nights has actually been warmer, and before that I've had to wear a jumper. Well, it looks like we're going back into these cold nights again, which is very irritating because it means you've got to wear a jumper. But the problem is, in the middle of the day when you wear a jumper, you can end up sweating. So, you know, I've got to keep doing these walks, you see, and I've got to keep on staying out. I mean, I would have gone out earlier today, but the problem is I had a massive hangover and a headache, and I was too ill to. In actual fact, the burning was just as bad as the hangover. So when that burning was occurring earlier, whatever's causing it. I mean, I don't like accusing neighbours of using energy weapons or anything like that, but whatever's causing that burning is making me very, very bloody ill. Right, this flu's very bloody annoying because obviously when you're breathing, because there's like smoke particles in the air, I don't know what smoke it is or where it's coming from or whatever, but all you're breathing in is that horrible smell of flue. I mean, you get it when you're smoking fags or a roll-up, but at least you're like getting a craving for it and you just feel like you need to do that, and thus, you know, you just put up with that smell. But when the smell's just persistent, it's very fucking annoying. It makes you feel sicky. It's very sickly, and it's just persistent. Anyway, I want to talk about this flue because I'm very annoyed by it. I think it's around about Wednesday, the Wednesday before I came back on that Friday. I was coming back on the bus from wherever it was I was going in my mum's area, and I had a very mild sore throat, but it wasn't too bad, nothing to suggest anything terrible. It was just very mild. But I went to bed for just under 2 hours when I got back on that specific day, because I just felt really exhausted. And when I woke up after that time period, I could hardly get out of bed when I was at my mum's, and then I was sort of stuck there. And I apart from going to the toilet or to the kitchen or wherever it is I went, I was literally put on my back overnight. And when I got up the next day, I was feeling pretty bad, so I was sort of struggling to stand up, but I could just about stand up. I thought I'd take a chance, you know, risk going out or whatever, and I did the shop as well. And yeah, I felt bad. However, I could breathe, I could smell, and I could taste my food. On the Friday, I felt a little bit bad, and I thought, I'm recovering a little bit. So I thought, that was the day I was going back. So I was at Blandford, and I seemed to be pretty much okay. I felt okay. I was walking about. I didn't know whether I was recovering, and then when I got home, I felt like I was recovering. But because the burning problem was very bad, and I had extreme burning, that might be some of the symptoms of what's made it worse. I don't know. Just a possibility. And then on Saturday, I felt a little bit worse, and then obviously this is the start of when I couldn't taste my food or smell anything. And obviously 1 week later, it's been up and down throughout the week, so there's been days where I felt not great, but you had the flu type symptoms, and those flu type symptoms have been persistent for the last 8 days. And obviously since that time period, I still can't taste my food properly or smell smoke or whatever in a normal smelling way, and it's still not gone. I still got it, so I'm not sure how long this lasts, but I'm very annoyed by it. But the problem you have once the flu subsides, eventually does clear from the system, it leaves you with that fucking cough for 3 weeks, and I'm not looking forward to that either. I mean, I'm coughing as it is because I've been smoking a bit more again, which is a bit naughty of me, but I guess a lot of it's due to the flu, suppression, and obviously having to be out here all the time, because obviously the burning problem that's being caused by one of the neighbours does making me very ill, and they won't stop it. While walking about in the graveyard, because obviously it seems to be quite a cold night tonight, I've known it colder, but it seems to be colder than what it has been in the last few nights, I've seen that purple sexy car again, which is like a purple car that's sexual looking and has black windows basically. Right, so just timed a load of loud bikes, timed as I were basically putting cream on my back end because the hard water's making it sore, and I'm getting, you know, and then when you go to a toilet, you know, it worsens the situation, and it's like red raw, and you've got that sort of problem. So, but they need to time a loud bike when you do that, by the way. I get a bit annoyed by it. Right, so I'm caught pissing, and then a bird tweets, knife you down just. I'm just going to give you a bit of my history when it comes to alcoholic drinking and all that sort of stuff. So it actually started when I was about 15, and I was drinking 3-litre bottles of cider, and obviously I had lager as well, and I've also drank hooch type bottles, and Smirnoff vodka ice type bottles that are like 4%, 5%. And back in the days when I was drinking the cider, it was always the white stuff, so it was White Lightning, because I used to like that. And how I got into White Lightning is because Rosalind, who's an auntie I don't see hardly ever, had some, and I tried it, and I just liked it. It was really nice, and got into it that way. After a couple of years, I moved on to mixing my drinks, having like a beer, lager, whatever, cans of lager that is not in the bar, and still having cider at times, or even the sort of wine type drinks that taste similar to cider that were cheap back in those times. And at times I was also having some of my Uncle Robert's whiskey, but I didn't really have much of it, but enough to sort of give you that sort of boost, that kick, that buzz. Obviously, being a younger person at that time, it wouldn't be like it took a lot to hit me, considering my age, basically. So, a couple of swigs on that, obviously I think it was in a glass, not from the bottle, obviously. I can't remember, I don't think it was anyway. But that was where the sort of drinking initially started, in that sort of time period. So then I stopped drinking the cider and all the rest of it, and we came into the times where I moved to North Petherton for the second time around, which was in about the year 2000. So initially I had a couple of Diamond Whites that I had in the day, which is similar to White Lightning cider, which is 8.4%, and I got tipsy in a day on it and came back. And sometimes I had alcohol in the evenings, but it wasn't every night, I don't think, I can't remember. And then I got into a habit of buying these special brews, and I went on to the special brews after that. The Tennant's Super Strength and the Kestrel 9% lagers, and I was sort of drinking those, and I ended up having 3 a night. But you got to take into account they're 9%, and I had 3 a night. But my body was slightly more tolerable, possibly, back in those days, for me to have that, because 3 of those now, I'd definitely have a hangover, and I'd probably be feeling really shit the next day. But over time, I just kept on drinking that. And then there was one occasion where there was a cider drinking night with a 1.5 litre bottle, something like that. And obviously there was also a time in the 2004 area where I was a little bit nervous of going to the shop because people were starting on me. So or maybe just a bit before that, because I had the estate after me because they were causing trouble. And he got me some weak 5% alcohol, which I was not very happy about. But I drank it, and then obviously it was mostly special brew right through after that. Actually, I think it's a bit before. I think it might have been 2003, earlier in that year. I'm not sure. It's hard to say, but it's in that time period, because I just remembered that it would have been in the time period when Scooter released the Night track, when all the problems were occurring. So, and that was in 2003, not 2004, which is a track that everyone was speaking about because it mentions or suggests Amy Weston. But it's also a track that goes against me because it's been made in a way where it's twisted, which is either coincidence, or because the creator gods turned, or because the CIA or the elite are twisting the music industry against me. One of those reasons. Anyway, so it was special brew. I eventually went into like a mental hospital, which was Beach Court in Bridgewater, and I was there for 6 months, and you had to be in at a certain time because they locked the main door, and obviously and that sort of stuff. Now, I did manage to drink quite a while without any drinks at all, but there were occasions where I got some alcohol and I drank 2 bottles of whatever it was in there, and I felt sort of merry, but I only did it on that one occasion. And then eventually I moved to West Street in Bridgewater, and I tried to get onto weaker drinks. I was trying Stella, I think, but it was more in quantity, so you'd have it'd be like 4 cans. I was just seeing what it would be like to try a different drink. But I think it's 5.2%, where now it's 4.6 or something like that. I'm not sure what it is. And then obviously I went straight to this special brew, and I started doing walks around Bridgewater at night. And I also went to the chip shop and asked for, what I wanted, and there were times where I didn't have my money on me, or I only had £1 on me. I thought, well, am I going to pay for this? And I thought, I've done it several times where I've gone there, and I thought all that's got to stop, and I didn't, I didn't go out after that because people were starting on me, and it got quite rough and whatever. And then obviously there was a time where there's some people passing, and I was literally pissing 2 minutes solid because I had a whole load of alcohol in me, and I had to go there because obviously I couldn't hold it in because of how much wee I had. I was literally pissing persistently, possibly longer than 2 minutes, and that was near the River Parrot Bridge, so not the town bridge or the old town bridge, but the one where all the traffic goes from Old Taunton Road, and down there's like a building on the side. And back in 2005 I went for a piss, and even though there was CCTV there, but I couldn't hold it in, and it lasted 2 minutes at least when I was pissing. Anyway, that special brew continued for years and years, so I started changing the time of when I started drinking my alcohol, and it went to 10 o'clock, and then eventually 10:30, and then it went to 11:30. I can't remember if it went to 11 as well. It probably has done in several time phrases throughout the time I was drinking there. So then sort of 11:30 was the average drinking time of when I was drinking, and obviously I was there a decade, but there were times where there could be several months where I'd change the time to 10:30 to try earlier time or whatever, but it didn't work for me, so I went back to 11:30. When I moved to Burnham-on-Sea, obviously the drinking was continuing, and also continued when I was staying at Nan's or visiting Nan's for short periods of time, where I was drinking exactly the same drink, but wasn't drinking that often at Nan's, because at the time I was staying at Nan's was shortly before I moved to Yeovil, and I was already on the weaker drink, so I was on the 5%. So initially I continued with the 9% special brew, and then I tried to drop to another drink, I've forgotten the name of it, which was 7.5% in the 2015-2016 area. However, I was walking to Tesco's on a regular basis because Lauren was there, and she was opposing to a pair single, and I wanted to try and see if you can make changes in my life, with that one. But then obviously I found out later on that she was in a relationship, but she might not have been at that time, and since that time she's had 2 children. I'm not quite sure what age she is. The highest she'd be would be my age, but that'd be scraping it, but that'd be the max. The likelihood she was in her early 30s or late 20s when I was in my mid 30s, so it would have been something like that. And obviously the boyfriend she has is very rough, called Mike, and because of the Savannah wreck that came in and being mistaken as that person, and Liam, she's turned against me, and also been threatened by Mike to be smashed to fucking pieces when he was doing some building work on the scaffolding down the road as I was walking back from Tesco's. And then obviously I started going to Tesco's for a time, and then obviously it was very rare. Anyway, back to the drink. I think the shop was called Apple Green at the time, the garage at Barrow Road, where I used to live, and I tried the 7.5 lagers. In actual fact, 2015 and 2016 weren't actually bad years. I did enjoy those years. You had a bit of cloud about. I was having lanterns, you know, lighting lanterns, putting them on sticks and photographing them at night or at dusk or whatever to make nice pictures. I was also doing it with like the fluorescent, what you call it, those little glow stick things. So you break them and then taking photos of that to give it like a creepy look. And also, going back in that time period, I was also sitting under the pier jetty at Burnham-on-Sea with candles and lighting incense sticks, and maybe having a kind of Ouija board type thing. And at times I would go to Breamfort and do it, but it was mostly in the year 2015 if I remember, because I didn't fancy walking that long distance and coming back with a whole load of stuff on me, if you get what I'm saying. However, I did go down one occasion on a cloudy day, but it's very windy, just to get a photo of the cultic, basically the Ouija board, the candle, you know, a couple of tarot cards or whatever, back in that time period. I think 2015. Anyway, going back to the drink, because that's what this documentary's about, this bit anyway. Round about the time of maybe about 2017, 2018, I can't remember when it was. That was when I progressed on to going to weaker drinks, so I stopped drinking the actual special brewed at 9%, but they did drop it down to 8% initially. So I think it might have been 2018, I'm not sure, because in 2017 I got a picture of me holding up a special brew with a piece of paper asking if anyone's single, which I used for Facebook going back at that time. So it would have been not long after that. And then obviously I went to the 5% drinks, and that's how it's been since. However, about 1 year before I moved from Burnham-on-Sea to go to Yeovil, I started buying these 5% cocktail juice drinks with alcohol in it as extras on top of the beer that I was having in the evening, and on some occasions I was increasing the amount of beer I was drinking until eventually I went camping before moving to Yeovil, where I went back just to 2.5 cans or 2.25 cans per night of 5% lager. If we go back to when I was 15 to 18 area, I did have a shot of vodka, and I've also tried my uncle's whiskey, but that is it for spirits until I basically moved to Yeovil. But there was a time where I went on holiday with my brother and mum where I was having spirit shots in the bar, so that's been going on since around about 2017 as well. But these holidays have been quite rare, but it's just a marker just to let you know when I sort of restarted the spirits. So I didn't really have any spirits for many years, in fact. You know, it goes back to you know, when I was 15 to 18. Otherwise, quite literally, I've been spirit free right through until recent years. So obviously it started on the holidays, and obviously When I moved to Thorn House, which is where I am at the moment, life started to go downhill and started to worsen. So, which is not a good thing to say, because you know, it was bad at West Street in Bridgewater. Then it got worse when I moved to Burnham, and it's got even worse, 3 times worse since I moved to Yeovil. So there's no good news, but that's just the way life is. And then again, you've got to take into account, even back in 2001 area, when I was at North Beverton, things were bad as well. And then obviously if you go back before that, you have my ex-mugger Dan Morgan, who did actually live just up the road from me. In the 8 years I lived at Burnham on Sea, but I didn't get any problems. There's a bit of a change since the camping trip of 2023, as him and his mates seem to be a bit more edgy, and they were mistaking me as Savannah or whatever, and things started to get risky in the time I was camping. And obviously the amount of threats I had in that time period was really bad, because I was being mistaken as that person. So it's not a very good place to remove to. If I was to move, I'd have to consider it or think very thoroughly about it, because the amount of problems that are occurring and how much trouble has occurred. Alright, so yeah, so go to a stage where, even though I've had the spirits on holiday, I still kept to the normal drinks of 5% lagers when at home. And obviously in the camping stages, the 3 months I was camping or whatever it was before I moved to Yeovil, there's just a matter of 2 1/4 to 2 1/2, and on one night I think I had 3 cans, and I think it was the night I was putting sticks around the tent to keep it warmer at night, and so that people didn't see where I was camping, because I didn't want to cause trouble. Although I wasn't too bothered about it, but I would have had to have explained myself if I was caught camping. I'm not actually sure if there is any problems with camping, but there are new signs that have been put up since I left Kingscliff Woodland to say that you can't camp there anymore. So there is that as well. So anyway, I moved to Yeovil, and we start off with 5% lagers. Audi's own make of the 1664. There's 18 something, I can't remember what it says, and there's 2 3/4 of those every night initially when I first moved there. So I kept drinking that every night. I went on for a couple of months. Went on holiday with my mum. Had a gin and lemonade or whatever it was, doubles on that when I was on holiday. I ended up buying some Jägermeister, some vodka, and having spirits, and I was drinking spirits quite frequently in the evenings for quite some time, in fact. So I went on for about 9 months, and then after that I sort of tried getting back onto the beer again, but it took about a month before you started to feel the effects of the beer in the way it was before you started the spirits, because it takes some time for the body to adjust to go back to the normal drinking of beer, where it gives you a kind of a buzz. Because if you have beer once you've been drinking spirits for a long time, it does absolutely nothing. But eventually, after a few weeks have passed, you'll start to get that feeling again of feeling slightly tipsy or feeling slightly merry or whatever. So then we went for another stage where I was drinking spirits, and obviously the same occurred again. And then obviously I started to come out my shell a bit and go to bars and stuff like that, and started drinking in bars, and initially with a neighbour, and then obviously I ventured out by myself. But when it comes to Chicago Rock, I'm banned from there, as I mentioned earlier, but I can still go to places like the 94 Club or the Lounge. I'm not sure what it's called, something Lounge. I've never been in there, but you need certain clothing to wear to go in there, so I might consider that one weekend. So yeah, that's when the spirits increasing. And obviously if we go back to September, October and November, last year, because of the burning problem starting to escalate a little bit. I was doing what I'm doing now, going out, and I was sort of drinking 2 5cl bottles of vodka, which is like, I guess, 2 shots, something like that per bottle, so that's 4 shots in an evening, and then straight away. And then obviously I had half of another, could be a Jägermeister, a little miniature bottle, but because of the cost of that, I stopped doing that and just buy normal bottles and refill the old bottles, or just take a swig from the bottle itself. And then obviously the record breaking amount of drink I've had in one night is 15 Sambuca shots while on holiday with my brother, but there's the possibility that I broke that record just before the holiday, with a possibility of what could be around about roughly about 18 shots of spirits in one night. I think it might have been when I was with Peter, but I'm not sure which one was more. The likelihood is I was drinking more when I was with my brother, but either way, I have been quite bad with the drink. As it currently stands, I'm drinking spirits at night, but obviously that's because I've been drinking a lot in the way of spirits in recent times. So eventually, over the next few weeks, I've got to stop the smoking, because I started smoking as well. I'll give you the smoking process as well, shall I? Up until about 2003 I was smoking on a regular basis, and then obviously I started to give up after that, and then I started again for a short period of time, and ended up moving to Bridgewater West Street, and ended up smoking for a while, and then I just stopped it. And then there wasn't really many times I was smoking in that 10 years I was there. When I moved to Burnham-on-Sea, and the last days of being at Bridgewater, I was actually smoking again, properly smoking, so I was buying pouches back and smoking them. Come late 2015 or 2016, again I gave up to smoking, and then obviously I just had the occasional roll-ups there, or from my father, or whatever, since. And then obviously there would be a time where I buy a pouch of baccy, rarely, but I don't really recall buying that many pouches of baccy. When I moved to Thorn House in Yeovil, the first 6 months was no problem. There was no smoking or anything like that, I was just drinking. And I decided to buy a pouch of baccy, and I started smoking for a while. So I went on for several months, and then I stopped it. About 6 months later I did the same again, and then obviously since late 2023 onwards, I've pretty much been smoking almost every single day to now. However, there has been a period where there's another month where I wasn't smoking, and that's the month when I had the chest infection, and when I went to go on holiday at Mum's before returning back home, where I bought more baccy and more fags, so I can please myself. However, I'm trying to sort of cut down on all this, including the drink, but it won't be very fun, and obviously when life's not very clever, it's not something to look forward to. But obviously you've got to consider your health as well, and you need to make way for, you know, having these drinks when you go on holiday or something like that, and so that your liver's not packed in or anything like that from the damage that you're doing at the moment, so you can have some more days of having drink on special occasions or whatever. However, I don't seem to have much in the way of that sort of problem, but you just can't take that risk, because obviously at 44 it's a little bit more different. One other thing I was going to mention, I'm not sure if I mentioned it on the other recording before I put it on there last night, because I was pissed last night, but one of the young ladies She looks, well, it's about 22, something like that. She's into drum and bass and she likes the old stuff. So she knows what the jungle stuff is, the stuff I listen to. I gave her a CD to look at because I have my Points in Time Volume 4 Good Looking Records with me. Because I bought it with me because I was going to lend it to Dom, one of the neighbours, so he can have a listen. So he's borrowing number 1 at the moment with Dope Travelling Part 2 on it, which is one of my favourite tracks. But it doesn't list it as Part 2 on Points in Time Volume 4, sorry, because it's Part 1. So it's just listed as Travelling. Well, the lady that I was showing the CD to at the 94 Club, who was aged about 22, 23, somewhere around there, she's actually heard of that track, Dope Travelling. I'm not sure if she's referring to Dope Travelling Part 1 or Dope Travelling Part 2, but she said she's definitely heard of that track, which shocked me a little bit. Right, so obviously I go for a piss on the side because there's nowhere to go, and they need to time a sexual car from behind so that I get caught pissing. They've done this over 200 times this year, timing people to come when I'm going to the toilet or whatever. And if you go back before 2024, it was very rare this was occurring. It started to increase ever since the lockdown. But going back in the past, you could go to the toilet without being caught every single fucking time. But now it's every time. Right, so I've been speaking to a couple of people on the phone, discussing the issue of Chicago Rock last night. So basically, I can't remember the words that we used, but basically what the security guard said, because I lit my fag just a few seconds before I got through the door, and he said, "Can you follow me?" And there's a, "Follow me, just follow me," and so, "Just follow me," and like that. And then he said, "You know you can't smoke in there." And then obviously he said, You're just gonna have to go. You're gonna have to go. You can't come back." So and that sort of thing. So when I mentioned this to one specific person, he's saying that means that you've been banned indefinitely. And he said that's what it means. He says, because he said don't come back and whatever else it was I mentioned. So when I mentioned it to staff at supported housing, they said that it might not mean that you're banned permanently, but banned for that one night. But the thing is, when I spoke to this other person, he basically said you can't come back. So that's what I'm suspicious of. But either way, whatever the situation, I'm not going to let it bother me. And obviously there are other places that you can go alternative to Chicago Rock. So there's like a bar with a dance floor, very similar to Palace nightclub. I went there in 2006, but that's the only time I ever went to the Palace nightclub. And again, although I had all these threats with people starting outside the Palace nightclub, I didn't get any trouble at all when I was in there. And I would have to be careful because I was a bit tipsy and I nearly knocked a fucking whole tray of someone's drink over, and I thought, I don't want to have to pay the, because I would have had to pay for it. If I tipped that over, I would have had to pay for the drink, for each one of those drinks that are on that, and possibly the glasses if they broke. So, I was sort of shitting myself, really. But what I will say is, it was quite calm on that specific night because it was the Queen's birthday and they had like a West Fest happy hardcore hardstyle rave event which took place on the same night I went to the Palace nightclub. So most of the people, the rough types of people that would be, sort of more negative maybe, could have possibly gone to the West Fest rave, which is a big outdoor rave. Is it Bath and West Showground? I'm not sure. But it's definitely a rave that takes place every so often for those that like the sort of hard, banging, techno-y type music. So, yeah. Right, so bicycle breaking or some form of breaking, as to say, burglary, just and rape Sadie. Right, so in the last 15 minutes I've had the equivalent to about just under 15 cl of vodka, and I'm quite surprised that I feel near enough sober, because usually it hits you a little bit, but then again, if you take into account what I had last night and how much I drank on holiday, then I'm probably getting a bit used to it. But obviously this is going to stop because I need to cut down on all this. But obviously tonight's just finishing basically the bottle, because I bought a new bottle, you see, and it's got a couple of days worth or whatever. I was putting a catalytic converter construction at me, trying to go onto the track. Right, so a dog's just barked to say you had a sex with Amy Weston, and that Amy Weston is sexy. But the problem is I haven't, and there are just some times in life where you reach an age where that type's not possible to get at my age, so you've got to look at alternatives. So you can still get a woman with smooth skin, but you're not going to get the blonde type when you're in your mid-40s or whatever. So you have to look at the type, like maybe the darker haired type with a smiley face and smooth skin, you know, like the new age witches or whatever, but of a sort of happier, sort of smoother skin appearance or whatever, because there's no way you're going to get a blonde. And I know this. I know it's not possible. So, because obviously a blonde or an actual blonde, you know, as soon as they hit their 30s, they go into sort of a different attraction, most people that are blonde. So, but anyway, like I said, it's not fully too late, because there are other looking types of people. But what I have noticed is a lot of people seem to be becoming a lot more negative and seem to become obese or very fat by the age of 30. And it seems to be with most people. I don't know why that is, but you know, it's not like it was, you know, when I've been on holiday to places or visited other places. But people have a cleaner look, but in this part of the country or whatever, or in the UK, it's different. Right, so I'm actually down the path where I saw the graffiti the other day. It's been wiped off now, and it seems that they've sanded it, or they've cleaned up the fence, because I wanted to take a picture of not the actual graffiti, because it's already been wiped off. It was too late for me to photograph it, but the actual patch, there's like a patch behind it, but it looks like they sanded it up or they cleaned it up, and it just looks like a normal, if you were to take a picture, it wouldn't look nothing more than just a couple of dry areas or dust areas where they cleaned it up. But what it said, I can't remember the exact wording, but it said something like, the cops are guarding your ass, Savan. And then it said, be careful under that. And obviously I'm not Savan, but because I'm mistaken as that person, or been mistaken as that person for nearly a decade, when it comes to suggestions of that specific person, you know, I have to mention what it says. Right, so we've had the sex for you, that's the number 4 in letter U. Paviot's Mill van, I saw that the other day, but actually at Paviot's Mill and not at Paviot's Mill. A started car, a grey car timed, and then about a minute and a half later I accidentally stepped in dog shit. So how have I been in the 4 hours I've been out since I left my place? Well, I've got a very unusual sort of feeling. This is like a feeling where you sort of got that sort of itchy discomfort, like your body needs to stretch out, or, you know, sort of when you get that feeling when you suddenly wake up in the night or whatever, and you feel like you've been sleeping well, or you get that sort of discomfort feeling, but it's like a feeling like you need to stretch, or your whole body needs to stretch, or you need to scratch your whole body just to sort of give it that more, you know, give it that sensation where it doesn't feel like it's half asleep, or that it's feeling like you feel like jelly and you sort of you can't get it up and you need to get it up to feel a bit more straighter rather than feeling like jelly sort of thing. It's that sort of feeling. So I've had that feeling this evening, though I don't think it's connected to the burning problem. The burning problem I mentioned 1 hour after I left, saying it's still quite bad. Well, it doesn't seem to have recovered very quickly, actually. It's near enough, I feel near enough the same as what it was when I mentioned it earlier, and that's 3 hours on top of when I mentioned it. But there are some days where that burning sensation doesn't go very quickly, and you've got to take into account I've been at home with the burning for pretty much most of the day, and also because I've got a hangover and I feel like crap anyway. I just don't feel great in general, and this is one of the reasons I done this walk. And it doesn't help when you've got that stupid wind chill in your direction as well, because that can cause headaches, migraines and whatever, unless you've had little sleep or whatever. It can work in several ways. I mean, if I was really knackered and didn't have hardly any sleep for a period of time, not straight away, like, because you can get headaches if it just suddenly occurs, but just supposing you did it for a period of time and then had a load of alcohol, you wouldn't get a hangover the next day. But if you're one of those that had a lot of sleep and was doing it on a regular basis and then suddenly had the same amount of alcohol, you'd be in bed with a hangover all day. So I'm not quite sure why that occurs, but that's what I've noticed through experience of when I've drank alcohol when I've been tired and when I've not been tired. But it doesn't always follow. I guess it can work in other ways, and I don't know. But it just seems that in some cases that's the way it works. Right, the next subject I want to mention is quite an obvious one, because obviously I like music and I mention it on a regular basis. But I want to go through recent times, especially the last 3 months when it comes to my musical taste, because there seems to be some changes and I'm not really noticing it, but it's occurring. So obviously I've been listening to jungle tracks, dark ambient tracks, trancey tracks, similar to what's on the Trance Europe Express Volume 4 CD, as there's 4 good tracks on there. Cold Cut, Nominal Aphasia, Dead Stock, Octarine, DJ Crystal, Crystallized, and Skylab versus Deluxe, and a track called Twister. So I've been listening to those specific tracks, walking in a communal garden, especially before the holiday at my mum's, but also when I came back from the previous stay at my mum's a couple of weeks before. I have noticed my music seems to be changing. I'll give you a quick documentary. I try and do it as fast as I can, because it goes back to the 80s and the early 90s. There's a specific 60s tape that Dad was playing in the car and I really enjoyed it. I later found out that it's 50 favourite somethings, or rather top 10 50 favourites of the 60s, tape 2. And that had like a picture of a bicycle on the tape on the cover. And there's something about that specific tape, I like the music on there. And obviously at the time I would have been 10 or whatever, maybe younger. I'll try and get the track listing actually. It starts off with Bee, Bumble and the Stingers, Nut Rocker. The Temperance 7, Pasadena. Obviously I've not heard the tape for a long time, so if I get a couple of tracks out of place, or not the right tracks, I'm just going to go through what tracks I remember in the order. Okay, so you have Pasadena, Helen Shapiro, Tell Me What He Said, Craig Douglas from When My Little Girl Is Smiling. And I get confused. But I just have to mention tracks that are on there, some of them. I mean, you had the Swinging Blue Jeans, I think it is, the Hippie Hippie Shake. I don't like that track, but there was one that's on there. Well, what else did you have on there? The Shadows, was it Apache? I can't remember. Or Atlantis. You had 2 Shadows tracks on there. Cliff Richard. What's that? It's the one where it goes Bachelor Boy. What's the other track? Oh, fucking hell. It's very difficult because I've not listened to this tape for many years. I had to get the track listing, and that's how I know what's on there. But it was many, many years before I discovered it and knew what tape it was. So you had How Do You Do It, Joey and the Pacemakers, and the other one, what's the other one? I've forgotten now. You'll Never Walk Alone, Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas, Bad to Me, Freddie and the Dreamers, You Were Made for Me, Cilla Black, It's For You. I'm not really keen on Cilla Black, but that specific track wasn't a bad track. Johnny Kidd and the Pirates, I'll Never Get Over You. The Beatles, She Loves You, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah. So if that gives you some idea of what the tape is, because obviously I can't remember the proper name of the tape. So yeah, I got into music from that. It's quite rare groove sounding actually, the way they compiled that tape. It's for 60s music, more swinging 60s, but it's, I would say deep as such, rare groove deep, but it's sort of the way, when you consider 60 tracks being mostly cheerful or different, the way they designed that tape was, it gave it like a mystical feel to it when you were listening to it. Obviously I wouldn't do that today because obviously I'm older and I've listened to a lot more harder tracks, or tracks that are deeper, or in recent times they've made the technology of music's changed, but back then it was there, you know, you could feel it. And then obviously on another tape I was Pictures of Matchstick Men, Status Quo, that's quite a good track, and that's always reminded me of like an incandescent light bulb without the cover on it. So you've got like the white bit, and where you screwed a bit above the bulb, you take that bit out as like a black colour. And I was sort of sitting on the bed one day thinking of that specific track. Oh, it reminds me of a fucking light bulb. It's just, you know, I don't know why it does that, but again, it's not really a sort of favourite track, but I have liked it, you know, in the past. And then obviously, so let's talk about the 90s, shall we? So that is 90s, early 90s. I bought, I can't remember what the tape was it Trance Dance? It was like a commercial tape. I didn't go much on it, but it was cool, and I was sort of 93 area, 92 area. Faded out. And I sort of didn't really the music sort of wasn't really sort of taking music much seriously for a time, maybe. If we move on a little bit, say to 1994, or just a bit before that, actually there is another time period, I forgot about that. Obviously I like the music my dad was playing in his car. You had something like a black tape, something like the 80s tracks on there, and you had stuff like Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall. What else was on there? There's quite a good tape, but it was a short tape. I can't remember the track titles that were on there. I think John Lennon might have been on there. Imagine, I can't remember. And it's like sort of 80s soul stuff. And then obviously my Uncle Dave, he listened to Queen Greatest Hits, and actually it does go back to before 94 actually. So he had Greatest Hits 1 and 2, and a bit like ABBA Gold and Carpenter's Gold. Quite simply, every track or every other track on the CD or tape back in those days was excellent tunes, and I did actually like Queen, you know, and basically. But I got out of all this stuff, and the reason I got out of all this stuff is because I went into the jungle scene, but we'll go to that in a minute. But if it wasn't for the, you know, the old tapes, you know, I think I damaged a tape in the hospital. I was in a mood or something, rather, on that day, and I damaged a Queen tape. But it was, you know, it's music from the past. I remember doing these cycle rides with Dave, Uncle Dave, and I was sort of thinking of Queen then, you know, and the cycling rides, you know. I thought it was good music, you know, when I was only a young person. And when I was on this bus, you know, the school bus to my place to, you know, Bridgewater to Elmwood School, back in the early days, I was holding the cassette out the window because I got hold of the cassette with the actual cover, and I thought it was good music, you know. And people were sort of laughing because they were probably listening to Happy Hardcore. Well, I wouldn't say Happy Hardcore because it was just a little bit before that. Probably even the jungle stuff that I listened to, I don't know. Or, I don't know, or techno, I ain't got a clue, but. So, you know, I thought, yeah, but it's good music, it makes good sound, you know. So that's what I was thinking to myself. I thought, yes, you're going to insult it, and I thought to myself, yes, but never mind. And then that sort of insult annoyed me, but never mind. So it's 1994 where the change took place. So you had jungle music being advertised on TV commercials like the Jungle Mania series. But I couldn't remember what it was. But if we just go back just a little bit before that, when I was still at Elmwood School, Keith Gadd took a tape into the assembly room where we were rating people's music. I mean, I can't guarantee this 100%, but I'm pretty sure the track that played was Omni Trio Renegade Snares Foul Play Remix. And I thought it was Matthew Cook's tape. And I was asked, what do I rate that track? And I thought to myself, yeah, it's a 10 out of 10, I like it. It was a really good track. And they're saying it's rave. The children were saying it's rave, it's crap. You don't, no, what do you really rate it? And I said, no, it's a 10, I like it. And I said, it's not, it sounds like jungle to me. And that's before I even knew what jungle was. I just had that sort of suspicion it's jungle. Which it was. It was actually jungle, yeah. And then I thought to myself, yeah, give it a 10. And then Keith said, oi, if he wants to say it's a 10, let him put it down as a 10. You know, and I thought, yeah, I do like that track. I mean, I can't guarantee it was Renegade Snares, but to what I can remember, it was Omni Trio Renegade Snares Foul Play Remix, which is the most commercial version of Renegade Snares. But anyway, let's go to 1994 when I left Elmwood School, shall we? Obviously there's a few commercials, you know, I was up and down with the jungle because I didn't really know what it was, and at times I was forgetting because obviously I was only a kid, and it just pops out of your mind, you know, and you forget about it altogether. So you had the Jungle Manias on television, being advertised on TV adverts, but I keep forgetting, you know, they advertise it, and being a young age you think, oh, what music was that? Or, you know. So I bought a tape, a load of blank tapes, to use as blank tapes, that is, in a junk shop in down Station Road at the back of, you know, in Taunton. Obviously it's not there anymore. They had one in Weston-super-Mare as well, not far from Albert Street, and they had a load of good stuff in there, but it closed down many years ago as well. But you don't get much of these junk shops anymore. Anyway, I bought some blank tapes. Well, they're not blanks, but I was using as blanks. But when I was playing the music I was on them, I knew that I accidentally recorded over one specific tape. After a few seconds, I realised, oh, this is rave music, this sounds cool. And I thought all the kids at school think, oh, what's this, you know, back at that time, and you know. But what happened is one specific tape I didn't actually record over, and it's about 30 minutes long, just under 30 minutes long, something like that. I'm trying to think what the tracks were. It starts off with Wax Doctor, A New Direction, the 93 remix, And I think it goes into another track. It goes, I won it last year, but I don't know what the fucking track's called. But it's like a techno-y track. Then it goes into DJ Chrome and Mr. Time, Into the Night. And I think it's DJ Rap, Tumbling, it goes into. I think that's the name of the track. And then it goes into Engineers Without Fear, Spiritual Aura, which is also a DJ Rap track. And incidentally, DJ Rap is a sexy fucking lady today. Even I was looking at a picture, right? Just 3 years. She was born in roughly about the same. Well, I'm not sure what the year is. I think it's the same year my dad was born. But DJ Rap, even just a few years ago, I put a picture of DJ Rap on Facebook, and I was told I was a sick bastard if I fancied that lady. And I thought to myself, she's born the same year or near enough when my dad was born, but you know, and I thought to myself, yes, she's holding her looks, you know. You don't usually get that, you know. DJ Rap has held her looks out right up, you know. I mean, it's not good. She's near enough a granny, and she's still got that smooth skin attraction, sexual appearance that men can fancy at that age. I mean, for most people, they seem to lose it at the age of about 25. But DJ Rap, she has fucking held it big time. And she's still sexy at this minute in time, to a point where I can still fancy her at the age she is now. So, if I was to guess, I'd say she's coming up 65, something like that. And she still listens to the music that I listen to, but she prefers the jump up stuff, or the, whatever you want to call it. And that burning sensation seems to be coming back for some reason. Doesn't usually do that. Usually it sort of eases. Anyway, after that, I think the track is called 6 Days on the Run, and it's a track that goes something like this: trying to find a way to get you back, da 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 da. I think I'm going crazy. No, it's like a banging techno track. And then you had one that sounds like, well, I'm not sure what the track's called, but it sounds like the, it makes a suggestion of a CD. So it goes, are you having a good time? Are you rocking to the bass line? It goes, dun 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 dun. And so, it says, I'll give you some of the lyrics on that tape. I'm not sure what tape it is. And I've never found that tape either. I've never found out what that specific tape is. It sounds of the DJ Apache Plymouth Tower #1. Who's ready to rock into the rubble? Come on, or something like that. And it says jungle. And then there's another section where it says, come. I can't remember the actual lyrics, as I heard it for fucking years. It's something like, come, the dance to put you in the trance. Kick to the beat, come on and move in time to trance. So I had those lyrics on there. Whatever that tape is, I ain't got a fucking clue, but it's like it's techno-y, jungly, rave stuff. I knew it wasn't jungle, proper jungle, because I just had that feeling or a sense that it wasn't jungle. Well, it wasn't, but just at that time I just felt that it wasn't. Anyway, later on, Marilyn Markle had something she needed to, well, it involved my dad, and I had to stay in the car at the time at Old Bristol Road to why they went in. And I was thinking to myself, these rough people are looking at me and then they laugh at me. And I was playing M-Beat, Wicked Wicked Junglist Massive on Now That's What I Call Music 29. Obviously not a favourite track, but it's a good track. But it's more of a track for memory reasons rather than for how I like music, because of the times or being on specific CDs. But if there's a track that I heard, I just say it's a shitty fucking crappy jungle track. But it is, it really is. But at the same time, because it's held some form of sentimental value to it, you've got to see it as being a bit like happy hardcore. I didn't like the happy hardcore stuff, but because it's played a part in my life, and I remember listening to it when I was a kid or whatever, you've got it grows on you. You think to yourself, you might not like it, but if you've had a couple of beers or you've had a couple of shots of spirits or whatever, you can get into it. So that's how it initially works with that. But me listening to M Beat Incredible, you're looking at 20 years ago since I last listened to that track. That's how much I like it. In actual fact, I've listened to more happy hardcore tracks than that track, because I just don't like that specific track. But like I said, it has played a part in my life, and obviously now and again, if I felt like it and had a memory flashback or whatever, then I'll play it for that principle. And it was covered on the Dance Trance The Wedding Anniversary 25th of the 6th 1994, which is a big outdoor rave event where they're playing jungle mixes and recorded it on tape packs and single tapes back in that time period. And Dance Trance is just one of those big rave events similar to Dreamscape and Helter Skelter, but you don't hear of them today because obviously the times have changed. And you've got smaller events as well which have the same sort of music but it's not as commercial, and that's like the Edge, the Eclipse, Dance Planet or whatever. But the main ones were Dance Trance, Dreamscape and Helter Skelter. Anyway, I started to wake up to the jungle scene in 1994, and it would have also been in the time period where I left Elmwood School to start Avalon School, and that would have been when I bought my first jungle tape. So I went into the rave shop at St John Street, Tech Check, and I forgot what music it is I was looking for, and then I saw this jungle tape pack and I thought to myself, I remember what music. So I said, do you have any jungle that's under £5? So initially he played the Dance Trance tapes. I didn't have a clue what it was, and I thought he played the Fallout tape, I think it was, but he couldn't, and the tape already been played because I don't recall it being on Petre World of Music, the first track, when it was played. And he couldn't hear what I was saying because he's listening to his techno music. I think it's Rug that sold me, I can't remember, I don't know the name of the people that were there in the early days, because what happened was Tech Check eventually went to change to Galactic, and I did buy a hat for £7, and I was wearing that hat on a regular basis. They were using material back in those days where it didn't fall apart either, and it lasted for quite a while. I was cycling to Bridgewater with it, had my headphones on, listening to Dance Trance tapes or whatever, so it was definitely different in those days. And that would have been the time period when I went on to the side I mentioned earlier on, and the drinking and whatever, and then I started to do walks, long walks to Bridgewater from Lavington or whatever. But yeah, so in November 1994 I bought my first official jungle mixtape, Dance Trance Randall live at Mission Controller's 2nd of the 4th 1994 mix, but as a single tape, in a dribbling head looking cover, which is taken from the Encyclopedia of the Medical Book or Medical Dictionary, which is I think it's Fortress Books, I'm not sure, and it's also on another book called Mind, A Simplified Study of the Brain or something like that. I'm not sure what the book's called. And yeah, so he played the Fallout tape, he couldn't hear what I said. When he played that Randall tape, it was from the start surgically removed by Project AKO on Reinforced Records, the first track. And I thought, well, I like this, come on, it sounds cool, the kids at school will enjoy this if I play that, because that's what I was thinking at the time. I wasn't buying it because I liked the music, I was buying it because I think it sounded cool and the children at school would have loved this music if I played it. But unfortunately, apart from Jake and maybe Jason Cox a little bit, but he's more into the techno scene, and Kevin was as well, and you had Peter, because they're more into the techno scene, but he liked country and western, by the way, Peter, so he's he had a Fantasia tape that he gave me for a rock and roll of the 50s and 60s that I bought, because there's a couple of good tracks on there. There's a double CD, although it was in good condition. And I remember the first track that was on that tape that he gave me. I think it's DJ Crystal XTC. Not keen on that track anymore, but back in the time it sounded cool. Because that's what you had, kids were about 10 years of age and they had all these jungle rave pirate mixtapes or whatever. back in those days, and the techno mixes as well, whatever. And that's how a lot of people got into that music. But it's a lot deeper and a lot darker in the way they produce the tracks today. Anyway, I bought that Randall tape, and even to this day, I like every track on there near enough. So it starts off with Project AKO, Surgically Removed, Reinforced Records. Then you've got Wax Doctor, The Saint, the original version, the unreleased version. But there's two versions of it on the unreleased record. It's the version that's more soulful and got more of a kick to it, and less flat sounding. And then you have Soundman, Wishing on a Dream, on Jetstar Records, which I think is based or connected to Congo Natty. I'm not sure. It's the same with it. And also another good track, not on the Randall tape, but I'll mention it anyway, and that's Director Metal. This is an example, and I think it's the remix. That's also on Congo Natty Records, if I remember. And then you've got the promos, Out of Order, Dark Sheep, or Out of Order, Sting. I think they're Congo Natty white labels as well, I'm not sure. Anyway, back to the Randall tape. After Wishing on a Dream, you have Shimon, Predator on Ram Records. Then DJ Lee and Gwanj, Too Deep on Legend Records. That's quite a rare track now, but back in its day it used to be, but the A side of that specific record was very popular. It's called Lee and Tango Solutions. Then you have Parallel World, Contagious on Good Looking Records, which is on a CD called Points in Time Volume 4, when they reissued their back catalogue on the Points in Time series to give people CDs or be able to buy the music of the older stuff mixed with some of the new stuff as well. After Contagious, you had DJ Spinback and Gwanj, The Execution, and that's quite a big track. Well, it was in its day, even though it's quite deep sounding. That specific track was quite big. Then you had Trinity, I think it's chapter 20, but they printed it on the wrong side of the record, because when they reissued it on the Brian G Retrospective Volume 4 album, which is a download, they got it listed as Dillinger chapter 19, which is on V Recordings. Then you had Ronnie Size and DJ Ronnie Size and DJ Crust, a track called Formulate. Now, going back to 1994, it made the suggestion it was a commercial sounding track, just that it's like a sleepy, deep track. As time went on, it sort of gained that grips to sound more underground. But going back in the time when it was initially released, it did make the suggestion it would be one of those tracks they would have played on the radio big time. Yeah. I don't know. What you mean the ones I was just mentioning on the phone about? Right, so there was a loud bike time to go to the toilet again, and several to erections. Hang on a second. Right, so the other tracks on that Randall tape are Unit 1, Love Me, also known as Alex Reese and Wax Doctor, Love Me on Creative Wax Records. You have Tough Head, which is by Busy Bee on One Nation Recordings. Studio Pressure, known as Photech, Resolution. Coda, Space Tech on DJ Recordings. And then you have Ascend and Ultra Vibe, What Kind of World, on Back to Basics. I think that's Moving Shadows sub-label. Flynn and Floor, String for String, on Full Cycle Recordings. That's it might be produced by Ronnie Size and DJ Crust, I'm not sure. LTJ Bookham 19.5 on Good Looking Records. And then the last track is Scan Chainsaw, but it's also titled Scan Not Sorry on 24 Carat Records. Later on, from 94 onwards, I got into all the other stuff and heard about Jungle Mania series properly and bought a load of jungle stuff, and it went on for years and years. And obviously I liked a bit of New Age because my mum used to listen to that meditation stuff, but I didn't really buy much, just bits and pieces here and there. And it's been like that right through until about the year of 2018, something like that. Then obviously I went into the dark ambient stuff, the cryo chamber recordings, Atrium Carceri, Dahlia's Tear, Proto Ewan Hilliard, you know, there's many, but I had a few albums, but so I started listening to jungle drum and bass a lot less, and then obviously when we came into the days of that, it was sort of just listened to a mixture of music. Anyway, let's get up to date because I haven't got much time left, because I had to speak to someone on the phone. Someone phoned me up, so let's go back to the last 2 months, shall we? Basically what I listen to now is just basically what my brother listens to, family tracks or whatever. There's no specific genre I listen to, and I've even listened to some of Peter's music, which is one of the neighbours, so my music sort of changed quite a bit and is a lot more happier and cheerful than the negative low down stuff of the jungle scene or the dark ambient scene. I'll give you more details on this, or make another documentary to explain music in a better, more constructive way, but because I need to get back, I'll leave it there on this recording.